Dr. Elena Martinez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stood in the underground tunnel. The air was thick and heavy, making it hard to breathe. She had been working on the planet Zarian Prime for 3 months now, digging through the ruins of the ancient Kethver civilization. The Kethver had been gone for thousands of years, but their buildings still stood strong beneath the planet's surface. "Elena, you need to see this," called out Dr. Ben Parker from deeper in the tunnel. His voice echoed off the stone walls. Elena picked up her tools and walked toward him, her boots making soft sounds on the dusty floor. The tunnel opened into a massive room. The ceiling was so high that Elena could barely see it in the dim light of their work lamps. Strange symbols covered the walls from floor to ceiling. In the center of the room sat dozens of crystal formations, each one glowing with a soft blue light. "These crystals are not natural," Ben said, running his scanner over one of them. "They're storage devices. The Kethver used them to keep information." Elena had studied the Kethver for years. They were one of the first alien races to travel between stars. Their technology was far beyond what most civilizations could create. Yet they had disappeared suddenly, leaving behind only empty cities and questions. "Can we read what's stored in them?" Elena asked. Ben nodded. "I think so. The translation computer should be able to decode their language." They spent the next 2 hours setting up their equipment. The crystals were connected to a central hub that looked like a tree made of metal and glass. When they activated it, the entire room filled with a warm blue glow. The translation computer began processing the information. Slowly, words appeared on the screen in English. Elena read the first few lines out loud. "Final record of the Kethver High Council. The great journey has ended. We have learned the truth that destroys all hope." The warnings were real. The blue world in the distant Sol system holds something that should never be awakened. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The Sol system was Earth's solar system, her home. "Keep reading," Ben said quietly. The message continued. "We were fools to ignore the ancient warnings. Like so many before us, we believed we were different. We thought our technology could protect us. We were wrong. The beings on the third planet of Sol are not what they seem. They sleep now, but our presence has disturbed them. Soon they will wake. Soon they will hunt again." Elena stared at the screen. "This doesn't make sense. Earth is just a normal planet. Humans are barely starting to explore space." Ben was already checking the other crystals. "Elena, look at this. There are hundreds of these crystals. Each one contains a message from a different civilization." They spent the rest of the day reading message after message. Zephyrian Empire, the Coulter Federation, the Singing Worlds of Altair, the crystal mines of Vega, civilization after civilization, all with the same warning about Earth. "Stay away from the Sol system," read one message. "The blue world is cursed. Those who approach it never return." Another message was even more direct. "We sent our best ships to investigate the third planet. They found cities and primitive beings who called themselves humans. Our ships reported that the humans seemed harmless. That was our last communication with them. Within a year, our entire civilization began to fall apart. Our people became violent and turned against each other. Our technology failed, our worlds burned. This is our final warning to any who might find this message. Do not go to Sol. Do not trust the humans. They are not what they appear to be." Elena sat down hard in her chair. She was human. She was from Earth. These messages were talking about her people like they were some kind of monster. "Ben, this is crazy. Humans are just humans. We're not even that advanced compared to these civilizations. How could we be dangerous to them?" Ben was reading another crystal. His face was pale. "Elena, look at the dates on these messages. They span over 200,000 years. The oldest ones are from civilizations that achieved space travel long before humans even existed as a species." Elena checked the dates herself. He was right. The messages came from different time periods, but they all contained the same warning about Earth. "And look at this," Ben continued. "Every single one of these civilizations was highly advanced. They had technology that we can barely understand. They could travel faster than light. They had weapons that could destroy planets, yet they were all afraid of Earth. Elena read more messages. The pattern was always the same. A civilization would discover Earth and send ships to investigate. At first, everything would seem normal. The humans would appear primitive and harmless. But then something would happen. The investigating civilization would begin to collapse from within. Their people would become violent. Their technology would fail. Their worlds would fall into chaos. It's like Earth is cursed, Elena whispered. Or like something on Earth is using these civilizations, Ben replied. Look at this message from the Coulter Federation. They say that after they visited Earth, their people began to change. They became more aggressive. They started attacking other civilizations. They couldn't control themselves. Elena read the Coulter message. It was longer than the others and more detailed. We thought we were explorers bringing peace to the galaxy. After visiting the blue world, we became something else. Something hungry. Something that needed to consume other worlds. To survive. We tried to fight it, but the change was too strong. By the time we realized what was happening, it was too late. Our fleets were already moving to attack our neighbors. We could only watch as we became the very thing we had once fought against. The room fell silent except for the quiet hum of their equipment. Elena and Ben looked at each other, both thinking the same thing. If these messages were true, then Earth was not just dangerous to other civilizations. It was something that could turn peaceful species into predators. We need to contact Captain Morrison, Elena said. He needs to know about this. Ben nodded. But Elena, what if they don't believe us? What if they think we're just reading old stories? Elena looked around the room at all the crystals. Hundreds of them, each containing a warning from a dead civilization. Then we need to find more proof. We need to understand what's really happening on Earth. She walked over to the central hub and began downloading all the information from the crystals. The data was massive, containing not just the warnings, but also star maps, cultural records, and technological specifications from dozens of extinct civilizations. Ben, look at these star maps. They all mark the Sol system with the same symbol. Ben examined the maps on the screen. What does the symbol mean? Elena checked the translation. It means forbidden zone in most of the languages, but in some of the older ones it has a different meaning. She paused, not wanting to say the words. What does it mean? Ben asked. Elena took a deep breath. It means the place where gods go to die. The two scientists stood in the ancient chamber, surrounded by the warnings of dead civilizations, realizing that their homeworld might be the most dangerous place in the galaxy. And they were the only ones who knew the truth. Above them, the research ship Horizon waited in orbit, ready to carry them home to Earth. Captain Jake Morrison was already planning the return journey, eager to get his crew back to the safety of human space. None of them knew that according to the warnings they had just discovered, there was no safety in human space. There never had been. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster sat in her office at the Global Defense Initiative headquarters in Colorado. The room was filled with computer screens showing data from around the world. Red dots blinked constantly on a large map, each one marking a place where something strange was happening. Amy had been studying these strange events for 2 years now. Earthquakes that didn't follow normal patterns. Electromagnetic signals coming from deep underground. Ocean temperatures rising in specific spots for no reason. At first, she thought they were separate problems. Now she was starting to see connections. Her assistant, Lieutenant Mark Davis, knocked on the door and entered. Colonel Foster, we just received a transmission from the research ship Horizon. Dr. Martinez says she has important information about Earth. Amy looked up from her work. Dr. Martinez? The one studying alien ruins? Yes, ma'am. She says what she found relates to the anomalies you've been tracking. Amy had heard of Dr. Martinez's work, but never thought it had anything to do with Earth's current problems. Put her through on the main screen. Dr. Martinez's face appeared on the wall display. She looked tired and worried. Behind her, Amy could see the inside of a spaceship. Colonel Foster, thank you for taking my call. What I'm about to tell you might sound crazy, but I need you to listen carefully. Amy leaned forward in her chair. I'm listening, Doctor. We found warnings, Colonel. Hundreds of them. Every alien civilization that ever achieved space travel left the same message before they disappeared. They all warned others to stay away from Earth. Amy felt a cold feeling in her stomach. What kind of warnings? They said Earth is dangerous, that something on our planet destroys other civilizations, that humans are not what they seem to be. Amy looked at the map on her wall with all its blinking red dots. Doctor, can you send me all the data you found? I think what you discovered might explain some things that have been happening here. I'm transmitting everything now, Dr. Martinez replied. Colonel, there's something else. According to these messages, every civilization that visited Earth began to change. They became violent and aggressive. They started attacking their neighbors, instead of exploring peacefully. After the call ended, Amy stared at the incoming data. Hundreds of files from extinct alien civilizations, all talking about Earth. She needed help understanding this information. She called Dr. Robert Chun, a specialist in ancient languages and mythology. Robert worked at the University of California and had been studying human legends for decades. Robert, I need you to come to Colorado immediately, Amy said when he answered his phone. I have something that might interest you. What kind of something? Robert asked. The kind that might explain why every ancient human culture has stories about gods and monsters. 2 days later, Robert arrived at the Global Defense Initiative headquarters. Amy showed him the alien warnings and asked him to compare them with human mythology. Robert spent hours reading the translated messages. His face grew more worried with each page. Amy, this is incredible, he said finally. These alien warnings match human legends almost perfectly. What do you mean? Robert pulled up files on his laptop. Look at these stories from around the world. The Sumerians wrote about beings called the Anunnaki who came from the stars and taught humans. The Mayans had legends of feathered serpents who brought knowledge from the sky. Australian Aboriginal cultures tell stories about the Dreamtime beings who shaped the world. Amy looked at the stories Robert showed her. These are just myths, aren't they? I used to think so, Robert replied. But look at the details. All these cultures, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, tell similar stories. They all talk about powerful beings who lived on Earth before humans became civilized. Beings who sleep but can wake up, beings who watch and wait. Robert opened another file. The Hindu texts describe cycles of time where powerful beings rule the earth, then go to sleep, then wake up again. The Norse myths talk about gods who will sleep until Ragnarok, the end times. Even the Bible mentions the Nephilim, giant beings who lived on Earth in ancient times. Amy was starting to understand. You're saying these myths might be memories, real events that happened long ago? That's exactly what I'm saying, and there's more. Robert showed her a map. Look at where these stories come from. They match the locations of your anomalies perfectly. Amy compared Robert's map with her own data. He was right. Every place where ancient cultures told stories about sleeping gods or ancient beings was now showing strange activity. The Pacific Ring of Fire, where you're detecting seismic anomalies, is exactly where Pacific Island cultures say the ocean. Gods sleep, Robert explained. The Sahara Desert, where you're picking up electromagnetic signals, is where African legends say the Star People landed. Antarctica, where your satellites are detecting heat sources, is where some Inuit stories say the ice spirits live. Amy felt like pieces of a puzzle were finally coming together. Robert, what if these aren't just stories? What if something really is sleeping under these places? Before Robert could answer, Lieutenant Davis burst into the room. Colonel Foster, you need to see this. We're getting massive readings from all our monitoring stations. Amy and Robert followed Davis to the main control room. Dozens of technicians were working at computers tracking events around the world. What's happening? Amy asked. The anomalies are getting stronger, Davis replied. Seismic activity is up 300%. Electromagnetic readings are off the charts, and Colonel, we're detecting movement. What kind of movement? Underground movement. Something big is shifting beneath the Earth's crust in multiple locations. Amy looked at the displays showing data from around the world. The red dots on her map were now flashing rapidly. New signals were appearing in places that had been quiet for months. When did this start? She asked. About 6 hours ago, Davis replied. Right around the time Dr. Martinez's ship entered the outer edge of our solar system. Amy felt her heart skip a beat. Are you saying this activity started when our own people came home? Yes, ma'am. It's like something is responding to human presence in space. Robert was studying the data on the screens. Amy, look at this pattern. The activity isn't random, it's coordinated, like different parts of a system turning on at the same time. Amy realized what this meant. If Dr. Martinez is right, and something on Earth has been affecting alien civilizations, then maybe that something is waking up now that humans are starting to travel in space? She thought about all the alien warnings Dr. Martinez had found. Civilizations that approached Earth and then changed, becoming violent and aggressive. Civilizations that destroyed themselves after visiting the blue planet. Robert, in your research, did you find any stories about what happens when these ancient beings wake up? Robert's face went pale. Yes, but Amy, you're not going to like the answer. Tell me. Every culture that has these stories says the same thing. When the old ones wake up, they don't come as destroyers. They come as teachers. They offer knowledge and power to humans. They promise to make us greater than we ever imagined. Amy looked at the flashing displays around the room. And what's the catch? The catch is that accepting their gifts changes. Yes, we become something else. Something that needs to spread and grow and consume. The stories all end the same way, Amy. Humanity becomes the monster that other worlds fear. In the control room of the Global Defense Initiative, surrounded by evidence that something ancient was stirring beneath the Earth, Amy Foster realized that her planet might be about to become exactly what the alien warnings had described. The most dangerous place in the galaxy. And she was one of the few people who knew it was happening. Commander Lisa Hayes floated in the command center of the transport ship Endeavour as it moved through space toward Mars. She had made this journey 12 times before, bringing supplies and new colonists to the growing human settlement on the Red Planet. This trip should have been routine, but something felt different. Commander, we're picking up strange readings, said Navigation Officer Carl Johnson from his station. There's something on the far side of the moon that wasn't there during our last scan. Lisa pushed herself over to Carl's workstation. The gravity generators were turned off to save power during the long journey, so everyone floated freely through the ship. What kind of something? Lisa asked, looking at the display screen. Large structures? They appear to be artificial, but they're not showing up on any of our databases. According to our records, that area of the moon should be empty. Lisa studied the scanner readings. The structures were huge, bigger than any human building. They seemed to be made of some kind of metal that reflected very little light, making them almost invisible unless you were looking directly at them. How long have they been there? She asked. That's the strange part, Commander. They weren't there when we left Earth orbit 3 days ago. It's like they just appeared. Lisa felt a chill run through her body. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've discovered unknown structures on the moon. While Carl sent the message, Lisa called her chief engineer, Lieutenant Danny Murphy, to the command center. Danny, I need you to run a full diagnostic on all our sensors, she told him when he arrived. I want to make sure we're not seeing things that aren't there. Danny nodded and got to work. After an hour, he reported back. All sensors are working. Perfectly, Commander. Whatever we're seeing out there is real. Meanwhile, on Earth, the strange activities that Colonel Foster had been tracking were getting worse. In the Pacific Ocean, massive structures were rising from the deepest parts of the seafloor. Ships reported seeing islands that didn't exist on any map. Underwater cities were appearing where there had been nothing but empty ocean in the Sahara. Desert, the sand was shifting to reveal enormous buildings made of black stone. The buildings were clearly not human, with strange angles and symbols carved into their walls. Scientists who went to study them reported feeling dizzy and confused when they got too close. Antarctica was perhaps the most dramatic change. Huge. Sections of ice were melting rapidly, not from heat but as if something underneath was pushing the ice away. Satellite images showed structures emerging from beneath the ice that were miles long and hundreds of feet tall. Dr. Robert Chun was studying these new structures from the Global Defense Initiative headquarters. He had been comparing them to ancient human texts and finding disturbing similarities. "Amy, you need to see this," he called to Colonel Foster as she entered the research room. "What did you find?" Amy asked. "These structures that are appearing around the world, they match descriptions from ancient texts perfectly. The underwater cities look exactly like what Plato described when he wrote about Atlantis. The desert buildings match Sumerian descriptions of temples built by the gods. The Antarctic structures are identical to what H.P. Lovecraft described in his stories about ancient cities." Amy looked at the images on Robert's computer screen. "But those are just stories, aren't they? Fiction?" "I used to think so," Robert replied. "But what if these writers weren't making things up? What if they were somehow remembering real places that their ancestors had seen?" Before Amy could respond, Lieutenant Davis rushed into the room. "Colonel, we just received an emergency transmission from Commander Hayes on the Endeavor." Amy and, Robert followed Davis to the communications center. Lisa Hayes appeared on the main screen, but the image was fuzzy and filled with static. "Earth Command, this is Commander Hayes reporting a Code Red situation," Lisa said. Her voice sounded strained and worried. "We've discovered massive artificial structures on the far side of the moon. They weren't there 3 days ago. Repeat, unknown structures have appeared on the moon." Amy leaned forward. "Commander Hayes, can you describe these structures?" "They're enormous, Colonel Foster. At least 20 miles long and 5 miles wide. They appear to be made of some kind of dark metal. There are dozens of them arranged in a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" Robert asked. "It looks like a city, Doctor. A city built for beings much larger than humans." The transmission crackled with interference. When the image cleared, Lisa looked even more worried. "Colonel, there's something else. These structures are sending out signals. Our communication officer says they're broadcasting on frequencies that we've never detected before. And Colonel, the signals are not going to Earth. They're being sent out into deep space." Amy felt her stomach drop. "Commander, get your ship out of there immediately. Return to Earth as fast as possible." "We're already changing course, Colonel, but there's one more thing you need to know. Since we've been near these structures, some of my crew have been acting strangely. They seem more aggressive than usual. 2 of my officers got into a fight over something trivial. My engineer keeps talking about how we need to expand human territory and take over other worlds." The transmission cut out suddenly. Amy tried to re-establish contact but got only static. "Davis, contact all our deep space monitoring stations. I want to know if they're detecting any unusual signals coming from the moon." Amy ordered. Within an hour, reports were coming in from around the world. Radio telescopes were detecting powerful signals originating from the moon and broadcasting in all directions. The signals were complex and seemed to contain some kind of information, but no one could decode them. Even more disturbing, the signals appeared to be increasing in strength and frequency. Whatever was on the moon was trying very hard to communicate with something far away. Dr. Martinez, who had returned to Earth with her alien data, was working with Robert to understand what was happening. She had translated more of the alien warnings and found references to signals sent from the Sol system. "The Kethva records mention this," she told Amy during a video conference. "They say that when they approached Earth, the blue planet began sending signals into space. The signals attracted other humans, ones who had been sleeping between the stars." "Other humans?" Amy asked. "What does that mean?" "I'm not sure," Elena replied. "But several of the alien civilizations describe encounters with humans who were far more advanced than the ones living on Earth. These space-dwelling humans had technology that could destroy entire star systems. They traveled in ships that were bigger than planets. Robert was studying ancient human texts again. Amy, I found something in Norse mythology that might be relevant. The stories say that when Ragnarok begins, a horn will sound to wake the gods who sleep in distant places. The horn will call them home to Earth. Amy looked at the data streaming in from around the world. Ancient structures were emerging everywhere. Signals were being broadcast from the moon, and according to Commander Hayes, humans who went near these phenomena were becoming more aggressive and territorial. What if the alien warnings were right? Amy said quietly. What if they're really? Is something on Earth that turns peaceful civilizations into predators? But Amy, Robert replied, what if that something isn't separate from humanity? What if it is humanity? What if we're the ones who've been sleeping, and now we're starting to wake up? As if to confirm his words, reports began coming in from around the world. People living near the emerging structures were becoming more violent. Crime rates were spiking in coastal cities where underwater buildings had appeared. Desert communities near the ancient temples were reporting that their residents were talking about conquering neighboring towns. Most disturbing of all, space agencies around the world were receiving applications from thousands of people who suddenly wanted to join space exploration programs. Not to explore peacefully, but to claim new worlds for humanity. Earth was changing, and so were the people living on it. The question was whether anyone could stop what was happening, or if humanity was destined to become exactly what the alien warnings had described, the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The signals from the moon had been broadcasting for 3 weeks when something answered. Commander. Lisa Hayes was back on Earth being treated at a medical facility in Houston. The doctor said she was physically healthy, but her behavior had changed during her time near the lunar structures. She was more focused, more determined, and she kept talking about humanity's destiny among the stars. We're wasting time on this small planet, she told Dr. Martinez during one of their interviews. There are entire galaxies out there waiting for us. Worlds full of resources and knowledge that should belong to humanity. Elena Martinez found Lisa's words disturbing. This wasn't the calm, professional commander she had known before. This was someone who saw other civilizations as things to be conquered rather than partners to work with. Lisa, don't you think we should try to communicate peacefully with other species? Elena asked. Lisa laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Elena, you've read the alien warnings. Every civilization we've ever encountered has eventually fallen. That's not coincidence. That's proof that we're meant to be the dominant species. Meanwhile, Colonel Amy Foster was dealing with a crisis that was spreading across the planet. The ancient structures had fully emerged from the oceans, deserts, and ice sheets. Each one was the size of a city and filled with technology that no human had ever seen before. The most disturbing discovery came when exploration teams entered the structures. Inside, they found hibernation chambers, thousands of them. And most were empty. Dr. Robert Chun was studying these chambers when he made a terrifying discovery. Amy, you need to see this. He called from inside one of the Pacific structures. Amy joined him in a vast underground chamber filled with rows of metal pods. Each pod was about the size of a coffin but made of materials that seemed to absorb light. These aren't just hibernation chambers, Robert explained. Look at the symbols carved around each one. Amy examined the strange markings. She couldn't read them, but something about them felt familiar, like a half-remembered dream. What do they say? She asked. According to the translation software, they're names, human names, but not names from any culture we know. These are names in languages that don't exist anymore. Robert led Amy to one particular pod. The chamber was open and empty, but the symbols around it were still glowing with a faint blue light. This one was occupied until recently, he said. The biosensors show it was opened about 3 weeks ago. Amy felt cold fear run through her body. 3 weeks ago? That's when the signals from the moon started. Amy, there's more. We've found similar chambers in all the structures around the world. Thousands of them have been recently opened. Whatever was sleeping in them is now awake and walking among us. Before Amy could respond, Lieutenant Davis came running into the chamber. Colonel Foster, we have a situation. Ships are approaching Earth from deep space. Amy and Robert rushed to the surface and contacted the Global Defense Initiative headquarters. The main screen showed radar images of objects moving toward Earth at incredible speed. How many ships? Amy asked. We count at least 50, Colonel. They're huge. Each one is bigger than our largest space station. Are they responding to our communications? Yes, ma'am. They're broadcasting on the same frequencies as the lunar structures. And, Colonel, the messages are in English. Amy felt her heart stop. Put me through to them. The main screen flickered and then showed the inside of what looked like a spaceship. But this wasn't any human ship Amy had ever seen. The technology was far beyond anything Earth could build. And sitting in the captain's chair was a human being. The person looked like they could be anyone's neighbor. A middle-aged man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. But when he spoke, Amy felt something cold and predatory in his voice. Greetings, children of Earth, the man said. I am Captain John Reed of the First Fleet. We have been sleeping between the stars for a very long time, waiting for you to mature enough to join us. Amy found her voice. Who are you? Where did you come from? Captain Reed smiled wider. We are your ancestors, Colonel Foster. We are what humanity becomes when it reaches its full potential. We left Earth millions of years ago to prepare the galaxy for your awakening. Prepare the galaxy how? Amy asked, though she was afraid of the answer. By clearing it of obstacles, of course. By ensuring that when you finally joined us among the stars, there would be no competitors to slow your growth. Amy thought of all the alien warnings Dr. Martinez had found. Hundreds of civilizations that had encountered something connected to Earth and then disappeared. You destroyed them, she whispered, all those civilizations. You killed them. Captain Reed looked confused. Killed them? No, Colonel, we improved them. We gave them the gift of joining humanity. Their knowledge, their technology, their unique perspectives all became part of us. They achieved immortality as part of the human collective. Amy realized with horror what he was saying. You absorbed them, you turned them into humans. We gave them a better existence, Captain Reed replied. And now it's time to do the same for the galaxy that remains. Your generation of humanity is ready to join the great work? On the screen behind Captain Reed, Amy could see other humans working at control stations. But something was wrong with them. They moved in perfect synchronization, like they were all thinking the same thoughts. Their eyes held no individual spark, no personal identity. What happened to them? Amy asked. They were enhanced, Captain Reed explained. Freed from the burden of individual consciousness and connected to the greater human mind. Soon all of humanity will share this blessing, including you, Colonel Foster. The screen went dark, but Amy could hear Captain Reed's voice continuing. To broadcast across all frequencies. People of Earth, your time as individuals is ending. The ancient structures you see rising around your world are awakening centers. Go to them, touch them. Let them prepare you for unity with your space-dwelling family. Together we will spread humanity to every corner of the galaxy. Amy watched in horror as reports came in from around the world. People were walking toward the ancient structures in massive groups. They moved like sleepwalkers, all heading in the same direction. When they reached the structures and touched the walls, they stopped moving like individuals and began working together with perfect coordination. Colonel, Lieutenant Davis called out, we're receiving reports that space agencies worldwide are launching every available ship. The crews say they're going to join the First Fleet. Amy realized that humanity was being transformed into something else, something that consumed other civilizations and turned them into more humans. The alien warnings hadn't been about staying away from primitive Earth. They had been warnings about advanced humans who used Earth as a base for spreading across the galaxy. Dr. Martinez appeared on a communication screen from her laboratory. Amy, I've translated more of the alien records. The pattern is always the same. First, The ancient humans send signals to wake up their descendants on planets they've seeded throughout the galaxy. Then the awakened humans join the fleet and help convert other civilizations. The galaxy becomes more human with each cycle. How? Do we stop them? Amy asked. Elena looked grim. According to these records, no civilization has ever successfully resisted. The process always ends the same way. The entire galaxy becomes human, and then the collective goes to sleep again, waiting for the next cycle to begin in a different galaxy. Amy looked at the screens showing people walking toward the ancient structures like zombies. She watched ships launching from Earth to join the alien fleet. She realized that humanity was not the victim in this situation. Humanity was the predator, and the cycle was beginning again. The question was whether anyone could break the pattern, or if the galaxy was doomed to become another stepping stone in humanity's endless expansion across the universe. Colonel Amy Foster stood in the underground bunker beneath the Global Defense Initiative headquarters. It was one of the few places on Earth that seemed protected from the influence of the ancient structures. Around her, a small group of humans, who had resisted the call to join the collective, worked desperately to find a solution. How many people are left? Amy asked Lieutenant Davis as he updated their situation board. Maybe 10,000 worldwide, Colonel. Everyone else has either gone to the structures or joined the space fleet. Amy looked at the screens showing the transformed humans. They worked together with perfect efficiency, building new ships and preparing to spread across the galaxy. There was no violence, no conflict among them. They had become something beyond individual humanity. Dr. Robert Chun was studying the alien records that Dr. Martinez had brought back from space. Elena herself had been taken by the collective 3 days ago when she tried to get too close to one of the Pacific structures. Amy, I think I found something, Robert said, his voice filled with exhaustion. They had been working for days without sleep. There's a record here from a civilization called the Architects. They're the only ones who seem to have understood what was really happening. Amy walked over to Robert's workstation. What did they figure out? The cycle isn't natural, Amy. It's a weapon. A weapon designed by an intelligence so advanced that it created humanity as a tool for galactic conquest. Amy felt her last hope slipping away. You mean humans aren't even real? We're just some kind of biological weapon. No, that's not it, Robert said quickly. Humans are real. Our emotions, our creativity, our individual thoughts, they're all genuine. But something added an extra layer to human evolution. A sleeping program that activates when we reach a certain level of technology. Robert showed Amy the translated text. The architects called it the Harvest Protocol. When a seeded species like humanity develops space travel, the protocol activates. It calls the collective back to awaken the new generation and add them to the expanding force. But why? Amy asked. What's the point of turning the entire galaxy into humans? That's what the architects tried to figure out before they were absorbed. They believe the real controllers aren't human at all. They're something else, using humanity as a way to clear the galaxy of all other intelligent life. Amy stared at the alien text on the screen. So we're not the predators. We're being used by something even worse. The scary part is that the collective doesn't know this, Robert continued. The space-dwelling humans really believe they're improving the galaxy. They think they're doing good by converting other species. The real controllers stay hidden while humanity does their work. Before Amy could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the bunker. Lieutenant Davis called out from his station. Colonel, we're getting reports of massive energy buildup from all the ancient structures. Something big is about to happen. Amy ran to the main display screen. Satellite images showed the structures around the world glowing brighter than ever before. The ocean-based structures were causing huge whirlpools. The desert structures were creating sandstorms that could be seen from space. The Antarctic structures were melting ice for hundreds of miles in all directions. It's a summoning, Robert said quietly. They're calling something here, the answer came from space. Deep space monitoring stations detected something enormous, approaching the solar system. It was bigger than planets. Bigger than anything that should be able to exist. Captain John Reed appeared on their communication screens. His kind smile was gone, replaced by something cold and alien. Children of Earth, the time for preparation is over. The shepherds are coming to complete your transformation. Soon you will understand your true purpose in the universe. Amy realized they were out of time. Whatever was coming would finish the process of turning humanity into something else. She made a desperate decision. Robert, can you access the ancient structure's control systems? Maybe, but Amy, what are you thinking? If these structures are controlling the transformation, maybe we can turn them off. Or better yet, maybe we can reverse the process. Robert's eyes widened. Amy, that's incredibly dangerous. If we disrupt the system now, it might kill everyone who's been connected to it. Amy looked at the screens showing millions of humans working together like insects in a hive. Robert, look at them. Are they really still alive? Or are they just, bodies being controlled by something else? Robert studied the transformed humans more carefully. They moved with perfect coordination, but their eyes were empty. They showed no individual personality, no creative spark, no human emotions. You're right, he said quietly. They're not really human anymore? Amy gathered the remaining resistance members. Listen, everyone, we have one chance to save not just humanity, but every other species in the galaxy. We're going to shut down the ancient structures. Lieutenant Davis looked worried. Colonel, how do we fight something that's been planning this for millions of years? We use the one thing they didn't expect, Amy replied. Human stubbornness. They created us to be the perfect conquering species, but they also gave us the ability to choose our own path. That's the flaw in their plan. Amy's team split up to approach different structures around the world. Each team carried explosive devices and computer viruses designed by Robert to disrupt the alien technology. As Amy approached the Pacific structure, she could feel its influence trying to enter her mind. Voices whispered about the glory of joining. The collective about the peace that came from giving up individual thought. The temptation was strong, but Amy held on to her anger about what was being done to her species. Inside the structure, Amy found the control center. It was beautiful and terrifying, filled with crystalline computers that pulsed with living light. At the center was a chair clearly designed for a human being. As Amy approached the chair, she heard a voice behind her. You cannot stop what has already begun. Amy turned to see Captain Reed standing in the entrance, but something was different about him. His human appearance was flickering like a disguise that was wearing thin. What are you really? Amy asked. The disguise fell away. Completely. What stood before Amy was not human, but something ancient and alien. It had too many eyes, too many angles, geometry that hurt to look at directly. We are the architects of evolution, it said in a voice like grinding stone. We have been shaping the galaxy for eons, preparing it for our return to physical form. Humanity is our greatest creation, our perfect tool for clearing away the inferior species. Amy realized the truth. The real architects weren't extinct. They had been hiding, using humanity to do their work while they prepared to reclaim physical bodies. But you made a mistake, Amy said, reaching for the chair's controls. You made us too human. You gave us the ability to choose. Amy activated Robert's virus program. The crystalline computers began to flicker and fail. Around the world, the other structures started shutting down as her team completed their missions. The architect creature let out a scream that sounded like reality tearing. You do not understand what you are doing. Without us, humanity will destroy itself. Maybe, Amy said. But at least we'll do it as ourselves, not as your puppets. The structures went dark. Across the galaxy, the collective ships stopped moving. The transformed humans collapsed. Their connection to the hive mind severed. Most of them died, their minds too damaged by the collective to function independently. But some survived, confused and traumatized, but human again. Amy looked at the dying architect. This cycle ends here. Humanity will find its own path among the stars. The creature faded away like smoke. Around the world, the ancient structures crumbled into dust. In the months that followed, the surviving humans worked to rebuild their civilization. They were fewer in number, but they were free. They sent messages into space, not to conquer, but to warn other species about the architects and to offer friendship instead of domination. The galaxy was safe, at least for now. And for the first time in millions of years, humanity would face the future as themselves, not as tools of something else's design.